Muy buenas, ¿qué tal, señores? ¿Qué? ¿Tenéis ganas de verlo? Nueva temporada. Es... Ponerlo por aquí.
Tres por 4, 12 son 2, 4, 6, 8. No, no llega. Estamos quedando, la última, creo.
Venga, Drauger.
Hombre, dándotelo todo, de cada vez que consigues una mierda esa te dan 20.000 de oro.
Joder. Una uña.
Esas son las transiciones, ¿no? Eso ya lo cambiaron también. Ahora es un caminito. Es mucho más fácil.
Pero es una putada, ¿eh?
No, pero también es mucho más fácil, ¿eh?
Y hay que hacer el puzzle de los cojones.
Sí. Y que te toquen los sitios y demás.
Pero escúchame, que te están dando por cada mierda de esa. El tío ha creado el personaje y tiene oro ya para 4 personajes, ¿eh?
Sí, es que están dando mucho. Bueno, hay ahora lingotes de 200.000 de oro, ¿eh?
Joder.
Espérate.
Es que la gente se iba por lo mismo, es que el oro era muy difícil, o lo
Sí.
comprabas con dinero real o no sacabas, y después te metías en cualquier daño, cualquier cosa, y la gente lo único que hacía era pedirte oro y pedirte oro y pedirte oro. Mira, 20.000 de oro más. Lo que lleva aquí, lleva el tío 1.600.000, sacando.
En un rato.
En un rato. O sea, que es bárbaro.
Bueno, ¿qué esperáis de la nueva temporada?
Ni idea.
¿Algún personaje nuevo?
No sé, no sé, no sé. No sé.
Yo me voy a decantar por el Marauder.
El Marauder, eso es un equipo contra incendios en los barcos.
Oh,
Pues casi, casi. Es el personaje que va con el martillo que va echando volcanes. O el Raitinus Fire, que el RF, que era de explosiones de fuego.
para verte
No
jugar.
sé, a mí me gustan, a mí estas especies me han estado gustando mucho los arqueros. Me estoy decantando por hacerme otro arquero. Pero hacerme el arquero, en vez del eléctrico,
Sí.
hacérmelo el de putrefacción.
Ah, el tóxico. El Toxic Rain. Ese está muy chulo. Hay una versión que es con ballesta. Que va sumoneando ballesta y va haciendo eh, como círculos de veneno alrededor.
7 minutitos.
7-9.
Draoker está conectado.
Está conectado antes. Ha dicho que está haciendo la cena. Hola, hola, hola.
Yo me lo llevo. Luego subo en un poquito, voy a ver un ratito lo de la entrada del POE y me voy para arriba.
Estaban hablando de que la lanza que sale en el tráiler del POE que pusieron.
¿No lo has visto?
Ah, vale, pues entonces no digo nada.
No lo he visto, pero la gente se está empezando a mosquear con esta gente, ¿eh?
Hombre, ¿qué tal, Urk? ¿Cómo estamos?
Esta gente debería haber sacado ya el juego supuestamente este verano gratuito y como que están ahí reteniéndolo, ¿eh?
Porque no era el momento, es que justo ha pillado ahora que el otro, la competencia, ha sacado también una temporada. Entonces no veían justo de que justo esa empresa que ha sacado la nueva temporada saque el juego ellos gratis porque se van a llevar una parte de las personas que podrían jugarlo. ¿Otra temporada de PoE 1? No. El PoE 1 creo que la han alargado. Creo que esta temporada que estamos haciendo hasta diciembre, creo que la van a dejar. Lo malo del Revenant es que como al ser streamer y contenido de variedad, mira, se va a poner lo del Poe. Es eso, que hace poco contenido del juego y se va a otro. Entonces,
No, pero yo a Revenant lo llevo siguiendo, Humphrey.
bueno, yo desde que era G4G
Ah, sí, sí, por ahí. A ver,
y era comentarista de YouTube, de juegos.
claro, él empezó comentando al Rubius y al Auronplay. Y ya después se fue por
Después,
su cuenta.
no, creo que entró en una empresa. ¿Cuál era? Gameforge, no, ¿cómo era? Ay, es un como hobby consola antiguamente, la revista Hobby Consola, pero algo parecido, pero en internet, en YouTube. Y hacía como las de estas, los trailers, los comentaba de los juegos que iban a salir y demás. Ding Dong, la Valkyria es en otro canal. ¿Qué tal, Jersey?
Bueno, niños, os dejo.
Abuelo, no,
Abuelo,
Bueno,
buenas noches.
yo
venga.
la barquería en otro canal. Dice. Que yo llevo aquí desde las 8 de la noche viendo. A mí no me vengan a comer la cabeza ahora, ¿eh? No, y no, hoy me ha dado poca gana de jugar, de no hacer nada. Iba a abrir el stream y demás, le digo, nada, paso, no.
Buah,
Yo cuerpo, por favor.
pues creo que Jersey, las gemas las tengo, el juego lo tengo, los personajes los tengo, que entré hace poco para actualizarlo. Pero el problema, yo creo que es que se la ha ganado pulso, porque estuvieron un tiempo que no mejoraban lo que necesitaba del juego, que era el tema de las de esta, ¿cómo se llama? La room, la sala de espera, la waiting room. Y es que yo jugaba al día 3 horas y solo hacía una instancia. Entonces, no me valía la pena. Aquí juego 3 horas y me saco 10 divine. Entonces, consigo recompensas y no en el otro que consigo estar parado 20 o 30 minutos en una sala de espera esperando a que me cojan o buscando en salas que no la había. La herencia, pues cuando se porten, volveré. Será mi herencia. Véndela y saca dinerito, no. A mí, las cosas que yo he conseguido, me gusta después volver a verlas. No venderlas.
Ni de coña vendo yo ninguna de
Mi legado. 3 segundos, señores. 2,
I'm
1.
Jonathan Rogers from Grinding Gear Games, and welcome to
Se
GGG
muere.
Live. Today we're going to show you an exclusive reveal of what's coming next for Path of Exile 2.
¿No se escucha, Humphrey?
Twitch drops are enabled on
Sí.
live stream, so you'll be able to claim your Sun Priest's Incineration rare finisher effects by following the instructions below.
¿Se escucha?
Now with that out of the way, let's get started. It's time
Yo
to
no
give
lo
you a
escucho,
teaser
pero
of
sé
what's
el
coming in
motivo, no
Path
te
of Exile
preocupes.
2,
Ah, vale.
the Third Edict.
Que por cierto.
Karui! I have called you here
Ah,
to
sí, ¿no?
save our people, to save our way. Over the ages, we have known pain like no other, but we endured, and we became mighty. Now, outsiders dishonor our shores, and we have stood by, doing
Isla. Sí, acto 4.
Here, my
Los Karui.
ancestors. Show
Es
us
que
your
se me estaba
strength.
acoplando.
Show us the true way.
Ostras, los Karui.
Pero es que tienen que ir metiendo más variedad, cojones, que si no, no veas.
¿Se escucha ahora mejor? Sí, ¿no? Oh.
No, soy yo, Humphrey. Date cuenta que te tengo.
No, es que otro me lo ha dicho también. Urk también me lo ha dicho. Eso parece en prueba. Una ciudad.
Makuramakoi will.
Ey. Que se ha visto ahí el gordo del...
Se quema.
el Kingsmark. 3 actos interludios. 35 nuevas áreas. 24 voces. ¡Oh! Overhaul. Esos son las bestias. Las cazas. 25 nuevos mapas. Nuevos ítems. Nuevo sistema de tradeo. ¿Y la introducción de qué? ¿De qué? ¡Avisale! ¡Avisale!
Ah, eso sí lo vi yo. Que creo que, si no me confundo, creo que cuando tú vas a poner el ítem en venta, ya directamente te van a colocar el ítem a su precio.
Ya no lo tienes que poner, sino que ya se pone directamente, ¿no?
Now, as you can see, there's a lot going on, and we have a lot to reveal today.
¡Buah!
Creo que
Start
sí.
by going
Hola.
Leyendo
The
yo algo de
next
eso porque
chapter
se
in the path of
estaban,
Acto 4.
That's not all.
Acto 4.
estaban
New
quejando
interlude acts
de,
to
de
get
que
you
había
to
gente
endgame, which means
de
we're
que se
removing
pasaba
full
con los
difficulty
precios.
2. After that, we'll be going through the massive changes.
3 interludios.
I'm super excited to show you how I've overhauled the entire support.
Rebalanceo, que es lo que dijeron, para que todas las habilidades y todos los personajes funcionaran.
The Abyssal.
El avisal.
Exclusively
Oh.
the new rewards, crafting systems, areas, and bosses that it adds. After that, it's on to changes we're making to the end.
Endgame. Bien.
About items, crafting, and oh yeah, trade. That's going to be a big one.
A la esencia querían cambiarla para que se pudieran utilizar más.
And finish up with a live Q&A session where Ziggy D,
Trades asíncronos.
game directors,
Compra ítem cuando los vendedores están offline. ¡Oh!
PM Pacific, Hatch
Te
Note.
lo pueden comprar mientras está offline. Guay.
Details to chew on. We've got a lot to cover today, but first, another announcement. When the third edict launches on the 29th, we'll be having a free weekend for Path of Exile 2. That's right,
Vamos a ver
Path of
cómo va
Exile 2 will be free.
Free Weekend. Ah, mira, para la gente que no tiene el juego.
Weekend will end on September the 1st.
Para que lo prueben.
Plenty of time to give the game a try.
Bien.
All right, let's get started with Act 4. The story continues from the end of Act 3. Doyani has agreed to help you find an ancient weapon that
Pero
can be
tú
used
sabes
against
que
corruption.
esto va a
The
ser
instrument of the third edict.
la
The
cometida.
weapon was broken
Pruébalo.
in ages past,
Te vas a quedar
but
a
he
medio, vas a
believes that
decir,
the
me lo
pieces may be
compro.
found in the
Y ahí es
Karui
donde vas a sacar.
archipelago.
Al final te va a quedar de pago, ¿no? el pues va a quedar de
You want
pago.
to journey
Jersey, tienes que entrar.
a ship and set sail. When you open the map, you can choose to sail
La
anywhere.
isla.
Act 4 is completely non-linear, and you can visit the islands in any order you choose. Will you visit the pristine beaches of Whakapanu Island? The Karui whisper of a curse that afflicts all who travel there. Perhaps it's related to the weapon you seek. Or maybe you will visit the volcanic shores of the Isle of Kin. The Kin have been more restless recently,
Sí,
might be
Volcanic.
and driven by some dark.
Lo han puesto.
Perhaps you will choose to consult with one of the local Karui tribes. Their ancient wisdom could hold clues to finding the third edict.
Va a ser gratis, pero no ahora todavía.
Choose to
Ahora mismo solo es el fin de semana.
find fabulous treasures.
Claro, sale el 29 el juego.
Tesoros.
Incredible bosses.
A challenger! Come.
Hostia, el Wukong.
There are 8 islands to discover, each teeming with its own flora and fauna. Act 4 contains over 100 new monster types,
¿En diciembre el qué?
new areas,
Sí, en diciembre es cuando decían que lo iban a poner gratis.
interesting encounters. There's a huge amount to show.
Uy, la sirenita.
Here,
Ahí veo todo el rato a Ur.
discover it all for yourself. But what happens after Act 4? Well, until now you had to repeat the entire campaign again before you could face the endgame. But after adding Act 4, the game is far too long to make you do that. We needed something else to do in between the end of Act 4 and the endgame. So what else could we do? Add 3 new mini-acts, of course, and we're calling them the interludes. The interludes are a set of 3 temporary side stories that will be
Lo
included
del
in the game
interludio, esto no lo entiendo, tío.
level 65, where the endgame can begin.
No se puede poner, ¿no?
The first sends you on a journey back to Ogham. Renly has been leading the efforts to rebuild Ogham village after the defeat of Count Geonor, but there's a new danger afoot. The nearby town of Holton is surrounded by an impenetrable darkness, and each night their corrupted townfolk emerge to raid the local farmlands. You'll discover new areas
Ah, es una zona, Holten.
and new bosses.
Como la maldición de Holten o algo así.
You'll need to find your way through the darkness
Eso es la Avisal, eso es la Avisal.
corruption,
Soon you will serve our master.
and defeat it.
Yes, I shall dance with their corpse.
Va a estar el colega
And
otra
that's
vez.
just the first.
¿Otra parejita? ¿No va a salir?
The second interlude will have you return to the Vasteri desert, where Asala has been given a sacred duty.
Bastiris,
When the sky is
Bastiris.
blind, the gifting of water requires a chosen Sekima to meet with the Selkari,
Está chulísimo.
sacred water, but they're nowhere to be found. You will need to track down the Selkari.
Míralo, míralo, las mazas. Ya pusieron las mazas. Estaban preguntando por las mazas y las espadas.
Even more new
Porque no las ponían. Y dijeron las espadas más adelante. Las están reconfigurando, pero no dijo nada el tío de las mazas.
and ultimately help Asala carry out her sacred duty. Now for interlude
Y
3.
con lo de la maza, no sé. Ah, bueno, pero no ha dicho nada de la clase. No ha dicho ninguna nueva clase.
Save his people from the cataclysm perpetuated by its
Ah, ese es Doriyani, ¿no?
One such plan involved sealing a group of willing Val deep in the great mountain vault
Parecía a Doriyani.
as Mary, deep enough to survive the
okay.
cataclysm. Even though thousands of years have passed, he believes that their descendants may still live and may be key to defeating the beast. The journey up the mountain will be dangerous.
Defeating the Beast, las bestias.
Stand in your way.
Eso es lo de las cazas de las bestias, ¿no?
The
Del
mountain you venture, the colder it will become.
de Einhar, ¿no?
Explore caves of ice and enter the vault itself. Who can
Armas cuerpo por cuerpo. Tú que eres un maguito, o bueno, ahora te has convertido en arquero.
include 4 boss fights as well. When you put that together with Act 4, that adds up to 35 new areas in the campaign and 24 new bosses.
Ahora en
It's
arquero.
worth making clear that the interludes are temporary. When Act 5 and 6 are added, the interludes will be going away. These are side stories after all, but don't worry, the bosses and areas that make up the interlude are all part of the endgame. We're not just going to throw them away.
Ya mismo vemos al Drauque sumoneando.
Cruel difficulty anymore. We do know that it was a pretty big chore to have to play through the campaign multiple times on each character, and this was a huge reason that the
Bueno,
campaign could
él
feel like a
o
bit of a
los
slog when playing
alumnos
through
de él.
again. Another new feature to address that particular concern as well. So let's talk about
Printing.
in 030, when you hold down the dodge roll button, your character will go into a
Sprinting.
sprint after they finish the roll.
Va a poder correr.
Available on all character classes, and there's no
Oh.
limitation on how long.
Por fin. Se dieron cuenta.
The primary purpose of this feature is to make navigating areas faster when out of combat. Because of that, if you do take a hit while sprinting, you'll fall to the ground.
Adiós.
The best idea
Ah, dice que tienes como
is to you out of the sprint so you can
una penalización si te tiran. Que te caes un rato al suelo.
monsters. Just hold spacebar. You won't be
Hostia.
vulnerable during the roll, and you're faster while sprinting than basically any monster in the game, allowing you to retreat from combat. Sprint is a pretty significant change to PoE 2's gameplay. What I like most about it is that we can accelerate the pace of the game for those who want that without having to compromise on PoE 2's more visceral combat systems. Okay, so that's the new extensions to the campaign, but there's a whole giant league to play through as well. I'll leave that to Mark to talk about later. And that's because what I want to talk about now is the new stuff for your characters. And probably one of the biggest new systems here is with the support gems. Now, support gems are one of the most interesting elements to creating a build. They're what enables so many interesting mechanics and different ways to play. But PoE 2's support gem system has just never been quite right.
Eso es lo que iban a quitar.
Of only having one support gem
De que los support no sean tan necesarios para las habilidades, sino que las habilidades de por sí
design, though,
valgan para el endgame, cualquier habilidad.
only use each support gem on one skill, it means that you're encouraged to go all in on that one ability. And we want to encourage you to combo your abilities, something needed to
Podrían
change.
dejar colocar
So with that
la
in mind,
misma
we've removed the
gema en dos
restriction of having one of each
habilidades
support
diferentes.
gem per character. You can now use as many copies as you like. This should drastically increase the amount of possible builds and increase the amount of skill diversity. There are a lot of potential builds that suffered from the previous restriction. For example, a poison build previously couldn't add poison to more than one skill.
Ahora se pueden.
Use stacking poison on more than
Mira,
one
la
skill either.
support, la poison, antes si la tenías la poison, en otras no la podías usar, ahora sí.
Poison archetype.
Ahora ya puedes tener varias poison
Utility
puestas.
skills previously couldn't
Como ponía ahí.
in game
Lo que me estaba
because the supports that
refiriendo,
would make them scale
Rápida ataque,
useful
rápida
as
ataque.
other skills.
Claro, la misma skill.
Killing palm with martial temper.
Ahí.
Would much rather use
Va a haber más combo.
instead. There are more examples like this all over the place.
Qué bien, ¿no?
In addition to that, though, we thought there wasn't enough feeling of progression in the supports as you went through the game. There were only 3 tiers of supports, and many of the most important ones were given out at Tier 1. Also, there were no strict upgrades, meaning that upgrading supports when you ran out of sockets required quite a lot of thinking.
3 niveles y ahora hay
We
5.
now also have multiple levels of many supports as you go through the game.
Ah, porque ahora es nivel 1, nivel 2.
Support gives you an extra bolt,
Vale.
30% less reload speed.
Sí, sí, sí.
The penalty gets lowered to 20%. But then at Tier 3, the support gem gets something new. It now reloads automatically when you heavy stun an enemy. In some cases, the highest tiers might work a little differently, and you'll have to decide if you like the upgrade or not.
15%, 20%.
For example, rapid casting. The first couple of levels gives 15, then 20% increased cast speed. But then at Tier 3, it changes to a new approach. For each different spell you cast in the last 8 seconds, you get 10% increased cast speed, which could be a pretty big bonus if you use a lot of different spells. So that's pretty good for upgrades through the campaign, but we wanted to add a little more spice to the endgame for supports.
Claro, al principio estará más. Lo podrás tener el casteo o lo que sea, el support,
But for support
y se va a ir como estaqueando, se va a ir subiendo
powerful,
el nivel.
like Wrath of
Conforme vas subiendo de nivel y conforme vas pasando los actos para ayudarte.
you dodge
Está
roll,
bien.
as well as increasing the number of bolts it can hold. But it does mean that it's the only way you can reload the skill now. Now, unlike regular supports, you can't find these through the uncut support gem. Just like unique items, many of these can be found from specific bosses.
Ah, que repite 2
And there's a
veces.
ton in the regular drop pool too. Some of them are fairly rare, others fairly common. Some of them are build defining,
A los totem.
others are just straight up power upgrades. All in all, there's around 40 lineage supports being added throughout the endgame, so there's a lot of power to find
esa
out there.
maga de fuego se ha
Now,
visto.
the new support gems are certainly going to open up a lot of builds, but of course we have a huge range of improvements to individual character classes as well. As well as adding new skills, we had a big focus on buffing existing skills so that they can scale well into the endgame. There's a
Qué
huge amount to cover
guapo.
here, so we're not going to discuss everything. We're just going to quick fire through some of the coolest changes. We wanted to make cold a more useful element on the Ranger, so we've expanded the cold tools available. As well as increasing its range, Escape Shot now creates fragments of ice whenever it hits the ground. These
Convierte el daño físico en frío.
make the skill better for killing groups of enemies,
Vale.
but not
Eso es de los que le gustan a
support that creates more of them when killing,
Drauker, de comerse la cabeza.
and a new buff
Si ahora el 100% del daño de ataque físico se convierte en hielo, yo tengo un tanto por ciento de hielo, por lo tanto tengo tanto de punto de daño de DPS.
fragments.
¿Es así o no?
Cold arrows
Qué
towards
cabrón.
every fragment, giving you a nuke-like ability.
Y ahora te dirá, claro que es así.
We've also modified
La
Snipe
maga
to
de
consume
Diego
frozen from
lo
enemies, dealing a
rompe
huge amount
todo.
more damage, giving you a nice single target option. And something you might notice about this is that the bonus is a lot higher against bosses. This is actually a change you'll see throughout the entire game.
En el Puedo me gana en los daños altos. Ahí se lo sabe mejor él que yo.
Another theme you'll see throughout the game is making movement feel better.
Casi.
It's pretty cool, but a bit annoying
Mira, Tosi.
jump that it had.
8.
Ya ha caído.
8 flechas.
Main skill, so you can spam it more easily. And
Eso es lo que tú querías.
skill while we were at
Sí,
it,
ese es el
called
que tengo yo
Toxic
pensado en
Domain.
hacer.
It creates a small
Mira.
area around you
No
that
sé,
makes
a
all
mí
your attacks
el
create toxic growth
eléctrico me
pustules,
gustó
but attached to monsters.
y quiero probar el
Another
tóxico.
skill that was annoying to use was
Sí,
the
mira.
shooting arrow.
Ese era el
It's
eléctrico.
now just a regular arrow, making it easier to use.
Sí, el eléctrico lo
But it
tengo,
also means you
pero-
can support it with projectile
Hombre, pero está bien
area of effect.
que ahora hayan puesto lo de convertir el daño físico. Claro, es que todos los arcos tienen daño físico, o casi todos. Por lo menos ese daño que se convierta en daño rayo, que es lo que necesitas.
You to create shadowy clones of yourself to use a skill of your choice.
Claro, 1 más 1, 2.
No, se confundió.
Of course, one of the other big problems that Ranger had was survivability.
El PoE 1 más PoE 1 no es PoE 2.
Currently, evasion doesn't evade all types of hits in the game, so you're still vulnerable to things like slams or unblockable attacks. To make evasion characters more tanky, we're adding a new mechanic called Deflect. Unlike evasion, Deflect works on everything, and if you successfully deflect a hit, you take 40% less damage. Items can
Oh.
give you some amount of deflection based on your evasion. And there's a bunch of it.
El deflect damage.
Deflection is rolled in addition to evasion, so this is an upgrade for regular hits too. And unlike evasion, there's no maximum chance. You can reach 100%
Pues sí, tiene pinta,
into it enough.
Por ahora, pero bueno, también está lo del mazo.
Dex characters, so the
Se
mercenary
han sacado antes un montón de mazos de fuego.
big defense boosts from this as well. Speaking of defensive mechanics, let's talk about block and parry. Now, one of the big concerns on the release of the Huntress was parry feeling unreliable. One of the big reasons for this is there's a lot of hits that are not blockable, and thus not parryable either. So a huge balance change we're making is that now everything is blockable, except for specifically unblockable red flash
¿Y
skills.
eso que le sale al bicho? ¿De trozos de vida diferentes?
This makes parry much more reliable. And not only that, but to make block and parry nicer to use, you now also move faster than before while using these abilities. This is a massive buff to passive block as well. So to counter that, we did have to lower the max passive block a bit.
Mira,
It should feel much safer.
Este es para el Johnny.
Fire skills on the warrior were not really cut
Ah, su fase.
So we just-
Vale.
a bunch of them, but also add some more as well. Let's start with a buff.
Mira, Volcanic Fissure. Ahí lo tiene.
Giving it much more clearing potential.
El famoso de la temporada de PoE 1 de esta
This skill throws
anterior.
a molten hammer that does a slam at a distance. You can recall the hammer back by using the skill again,
Esa no me gusta tanto.
but the cooler thing to do is to use a Warcry near it. Using a Warcry makes the hammer explode, making a bunch of volcanic fishes around.
Ah, que puede hacerla
Volcanic fishes
explotar.
re-trigger when you slam them, so it's a great skill to make a flaming
Thor.
arena to fight a boss. We also buff Perfect Strike to have much larger
Sí, a ti de múltiples daños.
Molten
Que lo
Blast,
pueda
don't always
hacer
force you to move
explotar.
forward.
Sí.
Feels a lot better to use now. The skill now has
Y esa como que echa chispas, ¿no? Es como que hace un daño fuerte al primero y después
Ancestral Cry.
como un daño residual
Charges up
al
the
resto.
warrior by igniting monsters and invoking
Ah,
king
buah, que de fuego, ¿no?
After you
que se
do,
va.
use it to channel
Wow.
ancestral power. Every attack will be
Ancestral
ancestrally
Cry.
with fire. Your very steps will explode, triggering volcanic fishes. From
Al
your
abuelo no le
attacks.
enseñé esta cosa que lo
No, lo revienta.
ciego, ¿eh?
Lo revienta.
Skills were another area
Bueno, el charge estaba, ¿no?
we actually don't need to have a cooldown on shield charge anymore. It now also does more damage the further away you are when you use it.
Sí, sí estaba.
Ah, pero le han puesto daño por armadura, ¿no?
The upgraded AoE.
Por 15 de armadura que tenga.
Through it to trigger all the walls.
Sí, Urk.
We also added a new
Tiene buena pinta, ¿eh?
Fortifying Cry gives you a defensive buff, but it also builds up charge on your shield that empowers your other shield skills. And Magma Barrier now doesn't require timing in order to use. Just wait for your shield to charge up and block.
Ah, sí, se defiende con el escudo y explotan. Es que lo están preparando, tío. Yo creo que van a decir algo de la nueva clase. Es que, si te fijas, escudo, maza, es un Marauder, tío. Es un Marauder.
Warrior totem has undergone some pretty significant
Los
changes too.
Cry, los Warcry que se llevan con el Marauder.
That summoning an ancestor to fight for you was a big deal. So we've changed this totem to require 3 endurance charges to summon, and
El
massively
día
buffed its
29
damage.
lo veremos, ¿no?
It also now scales your weapon damage too. Since there's no limit anymore, if you build around 2 endurance charges, you can summon an entire forest of totems. In order to make that easier, we added some new sources of endurance charges. There's now a support to make perfect strike generate charges, and a support for generating endurance
Ah,
charges.
las cargas de endurance. Pero eso estaba ya. Las cargas de endurance.
Totems, we wanted to upgrade the Warbringer. Among the other changes we've made to this class, Answered Call now gives an extra totem, and the spirits have just been generally buffed in many ways. Use it with your limitless ancestral warrior forest to make an army of Karui that would make Tukahama proud. We've also merged the Great Wolf Howl and Warcaller's Bellow support, so that you can get all the benefits with 1 point.
¿Pero ese cuál es? ¿Qué personaje tiene ese?
And Encased in Jade no longer removes the Jade when getting hit, making it a much better defense. Next up, let's talk about accuracy. Accuracy was always intended to be something that warriors didn't need to care about very much, so long as
El
they're...
Warrior. El guerrero.
Unfortunately, that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with. So we significantly buffed your chance to hit at close ranges when you don't have much accuracy. Warriors shouldn't require any accuracy investment in order to hit with close range attacks now. We also wanted to improve armor. Now, one of the major weaknesses of armor is the inability to defend against elemental damage. In order to mitigate this, we're adding a lot more of the stat that allows your armor to defend against elemental damage. It's now available on items and in a lot more places on the passive.
¿Que la armadura también defenderá daño mágico?
One of the most important improvements we've made in 030 is to declunk the action and flow of shooting crossbows. You can now reload crossbows without any movement penalty. But not only that, all skills that can be used while moving now slow you for a shorter amount of time. This change benefits everyone, not just crossbow skills. With both of these changes put together, the run and gun playstyle feels much better. It's hard to explain how important this change is for the feel of the class. The Mercenary is also a good chance to talk about how we're rebalancing to make comboing skills much better. Take Shock, for example. It buffs damage and lasts 4 seconds right now, but that isn't really giving you enough time to take advantage of it. If you're going to add a lightning skill into a build that otherwise wouldn't use one, we need to make mechanics like this much better. So we've increased shock duration on monsters to last 8 seconds. And skills like Plasma Blast, which are intended to be good at shocking enemies, now increase the damage bonus by a lot more. You'll find changes like this all around the game. Chill now lasts 8 seconds, giving you more of a reason to weave in cold damage. Freezing skills are better at freezing. Burning skills need to cause burns that last longer. But making skills like Permafrost Bolts and Incendiary Shot double down on how they're supposed to be used, it makes using them in your build alongside other skills much more likely. We're also making sure to buff specific combos too. The freeze explosions from frag rounds now chain to nearby enemies. And using high velocity rounds with armor break will now fragment the opponent's armor. This causes monsters to take a portion of high velocity rounds damage with every subsequent hit, even tiny pellets. So that means following it with a shotgun blast is way more effective. Now there's a lot more buffs to crossbow skills, but for now I'm just going to talk about the new one we added, the Mortar Cannon. This one lets you socket any grenade skill, and using it will summon a cannon which loads and then fires the grenade you choose. Another issue on the Mercenary were banners. They were just not very good, so we're doing a big upgrade to them. They now last longer, don't disappear when moving out of them, and we removed the Valor mechanic. They
Tío, y
are
hielo.
consistent and stronger buff, and you can use them when you get enough glory. On which, one of the main focuses was making various minion types more useful to use together. Melee minions in particular were just not that great compared to ranged ones. As a starting point, we just straight up removed the requirement for minions to have accuracy.
Ah, mira, le han subido el Aquaricid de los bichos. Bien.
El segundo personaje lo dejamos.
Brutes got some good numeric buffs, but we also added a new command skill where they do a war cry that intimidates enemies and
Warcry le han puesto a los esqueletos.
we've also changed the Frost Mage's command skill to an ability that adds ice armor to your other minions, adding a layer of defense. And it makes them deal cold damage back to the attacker as well. The ice armor also makes the minion count as frozen, so the brute's warcry can detonate them too. Unearth was changed to work on corpses of your dead skeletons, allowing you to summon the minions more easily in boss fights. And they also got a new jump ability, allowing them to get into combat.
Mejorando mucho
Joder.
el tema de
Spectre was also
los
for the
elementos.
spirit cost.
Han sacado el elemento de veneno, el elemento de fuego, el elemento de hielo.
First balance.
Y lo que es el chilling, el
And
envenenar con el poison y el incendiar con el fuego. Yo creo que va a ser de dos.
also a lot of new spellcaster weapons with newer cult skills.
Que acaba de venir, ya verás. El segundo día te veo con Minion.
Staff is actually a wicked scythe that gives you a new ability called Reap. When an enemy is low in life, you can dash forward and rake enemies with the scythe to cull them instantly, healing you. It can also inflict critical.
Críticos.
Now, there's a lot of balance changes in the Witcher's Ascendancy classes, but I'll just talk about two of them for now. On the Blood Mage, you were previously
La
required
Blue Mage,
points on
las habilidades de crítico, la build de crítico se hacen con ella,
on the rest of the class.
porque es la que tiene más
The
crítico.
Blood Mage a better early option, we made Sanglemancy free, unlocking the power of the rest of the class immediately. On the Infernalist, the Demon form wasn't something people were really using because you lost your weapon stats while transformed. Well, you no longer do, so it's a much better option now. On the Monk, the wind skills needed a big upgrade for sure. Staggering Palm can now stack up its duration if you use the skill multiple times in a row, so you can keep the effect of all your skills throwing up wind much more easily. Wind Blast had the purpose of building up to dazing an enemy, but dazing just wasn't worth all that effort. Now it just dazes on hit, meaning a single Wind Blast will make all your skills stun enemies more easily. Following up with Vaulting Impact on a dazed enemy previously did a bunch of stuff. Now it allows you to break your
Venga,
enemies.
tío. Muchas
Once
gracias.
it's broken, following up with a fast attack will do
Venga.
damage.
Venga.
A cool build that certain people always enjoyed in PoE 1 was hand-to-hand combat. But until now, we just didn't have a real way to make it viable.
Con los puños.
Well, that changes now. The Monk, as a true martial artist, now has the ability to learn the
Grandes
hollow
slots.
palm technique, a
R&D.
keystone that lets you use all quarterstaff skills while
Puede pegar. Hostia. Un leasing.
Quarterstaff attacks now have a special unarmed version, and you get
Qué bueno.
to all your attacks from stacking energy shield and evasion on your character.
Está chulo.
A new keystone we also added to the Monk section of the tree is Walker of the Wilds. This changes Mana Leech to work with elemental damage instead of physical, which is pretty useful for all those elemental attacks the Monk has, but it works well for the Ranger too. Now, one of the least used Ascendancy classes in the game is the Acolyte of Chayula, so we knew we needed to make some changes here. One of the key things we had to
El Jackie Chan.
the Acolyte can do much more useful.
Sí, sí.
A new
El
skill
Monk
allowing
tiene buena.
Ignite, Shock, Chill, and Freeze, embracing the elemental prowess of the Monk in a truly chaotic fashion.
Randomista.
In addition, he can make all of his chaos damage leech. And we've buffed Into the Breach and Embrace the Darkness by moving the effects of the 4-point nodes into the base skills. He also gains a new notable, Grasp of the Void, which leaves void illusions behind you as you dodge roll. If they're killed, they do massive explosions of darkness, doing damage to everything in sight.
Caos, damage.
Now let's talk about Sorceress. One
Mmm,
of the things we
gusta.
want to improve on the Sorc is the ability to use multiple elements together more effectively. Now, this might seem small, but one of the things pushing you towards using a single element is debuffs like Elemental Curses, which lower resistances of a single element. In order to fix that, we're making quite a lot of game-wide changes to these kinds of mechanics to broaden what they apply to.
Señales,
There's no
señales.
longer 3 curses for fire, ice, and lightning. Instead, there's just a single curse that buffs all 3 at the same time.
Rayo y fuego.
Like Frost Bomb, which gave you cold exposure, now give elemental exposure.
De hielo.
Any of your other skills. We also wanted to make switching between different weapon sets smoother, so you can use different elemental staves more effectively.
Cambio de arma.
The weapons
Vale.
And now happens
Para
instantly.
hacer cambio de arma de fuego y de rayo. Hola.
Now we didn't just want to stop there. We wanted to add some specific mechanics that work
Lo hacen rápido ahora los cambios de arma.
elemental infusions come in. Certain skills can now drop elemental infusions. For example, when a frost bomb explodes, it leaves behind a cold infusion on the ground. After picking it up, you can spend it on one of any number of different skills to transform how they work. Spark will create a nova of cold-infused projectiles. Ice Nova will leave a chilled area on the ground. And we also added a new low-level skill that fires ice shards.
Han mejorado la habilidad. El Spark que congele, parece.
All with Storm.
La explosión de hielo que chile, que ralentice.
And that's all spells, by the way, not just lightning. Once you have one, you could cast a lightning flame wall, which adds both fire and lightning damage to all the projectiles that pass through it. Or power up Ember Fusillade with lightning, which will generate arcs to nearby enemies as each fireball hits.
Este es el de las pelotitas. El famoso de las pelotitas. Ese Drauker le va a gustar.
Full Palpatine.
Maguita.
Get fire infusions by blowing up monsters with Living Bomb. Then use them with Comet to summon a giant fire meteor from the sky.
Wow.
Or use it with Firestorm
Nuevo meteoro de hielo.
from a small area into a much bigger one. Firestorm is unique in that it can be infused by multiple different elements.
Firestorm. me
Ice infusion
recuerda al Diablo 2.
is the fire.
A la maga de meteoritos.
Strikes from the heavens into the mix. Or use it with all three to generate a storm that is truly apocalyptic.
La elementalista va a ser más elementalista que nunca.
Previously, you could
Los
use it to shatter,
cambios de rayo con
Now it
fuego,
must
fuego
detonate
con
all.
hielo, rayo con hielo.
make some leave behind infusions.
Tiene muy buena pinta.
And just like how you could previously use it
Mira esto.
you can now also use it on Orb of Storms
Ya antes lo intentábamos conseguir porque hacía mucho daño.
at once.
¡Wow! Meteoritos de ambos.
We also have a Spirit Reservation skill and a support gem to help generate them too. On the passive tree, we've added quite a few new keystones to the Sorceress section. Here are a couple of examples. The Black Flame Covenant keystone converts your fire spells to chaos and causes your ignites to deal chaos damage. Your fire spells and ignites will also turn purple. The Ritual Cadence keystone causes your invocation skills to trigger more times, but makes them trigger periodically over a longer duration instead of
Muy buena pinta.
for those auto bomber builds. Now, in addition to skill changes, we've added a lot more options for the passive tree for each class. Overall, there are more than
Sí.
100 new notables on the tree, usually around
A ver.
20 per class,
Ah,
along with smaller
decían de las
clusters as well.
pasivas, los nodos grandes, ¿vale? Decían que muchos de ellos es que ni servían, entonces querían mejorarlo en esta temporada. Vamos a ver si es
I
así.
can't go through too many of these in the live stream, so I'll just show you one from each class's area of the tree. We tried to be a lot more thematic with the new nodes. So for example, the Molten One's Gift. It lets the benefit of Armor Break apply to your fire damage. Or how about Last Stand, which gives you lots of stats as your situation becomes more and more desperate. A lot of these have themes aligning with ascendancy classes, like for the Gemling Legionnaire, for example.
Mira,
You
el
have crystal
chileo
immunity,
para
which
ser
makes you
inmune,
immune to different status
chileo,
effects
ignite y
depending on
shock,
which support gem color you have.
dependiendo del color. El choque.
Another ascendancy class aligned notable is Sanguimatic Rituals. It
La
allows
vida,
arcane surges
Arcane
to generate
Surge,
life instead of mana,
garantiza también
unlocking that
regeneración
support
de
gem
vida,
used with the Blood Mage Ascendancy.
en vez de regeneración de maná.
In the Sork area, you'll find these Archon nodes that allow you to convert all of your elemental damage to a specific element. You become a Lightning Archon when you spend enough mana, after which all your skills will be converted to lightning, and you will do extra lightning damage as well. We have ones for cold and fire too, with different triggers. Here's another cool one. Elemental Practitioner gives crit bonuses if you've triggered a skill recently, while also making crits generate more energy for triggers. Or maybe
Critical
you'd like
hit.
Great Bore. It gives you a reason to stack dexterity to make you tougher, giving a bonus
Vida
to
por
life and stun threshold.
destreza y esto,
The Cunning Fox.
defensa
This straight up
de
gives you
esto.
5% quality to all your
¡Hala! Eso es lo que se busca.
Now,
Los
another
quality
major
para las
change is
gemas,
attribute
para las habilidades.
We felt like players probably had a few too
Sube
many nodes and
5
attributes and
puntos.
not enough in interesting passives. So we lowered attribute
20 a
requirements by
25
25% across the
directo.
board. That means you'll have more
Bueno, pero
points to
puedes
spend on
conseguir
boosting notables
21,
rather than
creo
just
que era,
having to
¿no?
allocate more
O hasta
strength to
23.
excellent.
En PoE 1 es hasta 23. Aquí no sé si es solo hasta
These are some of the
21
cool
con el
ones we wanted to
corrupto.
show off, but I'd say that's just about enough for now. We're not even half done yet.
Es feo.
It's time to talk about the League, the rise of the Abyssal. And to do that, I'd like to hand things over to Mark.
As you just saw, even though there are major changes to the campaign for this update, we want to make sure that every time you come
Director del
back for an
juego,
expansion,
Matt
each
Roberts.
area feels different with something extra going on.
De este el que nos tenemos que hacer amigo, ¿no?
To make sure your experience when returning between expansions is fresh and filled with new content. And the way we did this was through leagues. Every expansion we make
Rise of the
not only has a fresh
Abyssal.
but also has new content exclusively available in that league. So,
Ya la continúe, a ver si has puesto una clase nueva.
first official league is bringing to the table. The Abyssal are a race that have mastery of forbidden magics and necromancy. They were thought to be extinct, but have merely been biding their time underground. You first encounter signs of the Abyssal in Clairfell, where you discover that during the night, weaker members of the Undead Legion have been attacking the encampment. The townsfolk require your help to investigate where the monsters are coming from and put a stop to their attacks.
Out there, ancient creatures, lurking beneath the surface.
As you proceed through Rayclast, you'll find fissures in the earth connected to larger pits. The monsters normally inhabiting the area are being affected by it, harmed by it even, having their souls eaten to strengthen the abyssal underground. As you defeat the monsters, the fissure closes and abyssal emerge, angered by you killing their food. Once all those fissures have been sealed, the pit activates, and more abyssal pour out. This is where the larger and more dangerous monsters reveal themselves, as hordes of abyssal spew out from the pit to take your soul. If you kill a magic pack, then magic abyssal arise. If you kill a rare, then a rare monster will emerge from the pit, having absorbed some or all of its modifiers for itself. This means the monsters emerging will generally be more difficult and more rewarding, as each modifier gives better rewards. If you are able to kill them all, the pit will seal shut. As each pit is closed, it reveals a potential reward. Abyssal troves will rise up out of the pits, allowing you to get some epic loot.
Sí.
Areas often contain mini
Oh.
pits.
A ver, son más rápidos, pero también tienes que tener en cuenta que nosotros tenemos lo del sprint ahora. Hay que jugar mucho con el movimiento
When monster
del
mods are
personaje.
absorbed, they have a chance to become infused with the dark necromancy, transforming them into abyssal modifiers. For example, you defeat this monster with the mana siphoner modifier. Their soul is eaten by the pit, and a rare monster
Pues
emerges.
mira,
The mana
va con el de moverse para atrás,
soul siphoner,
corriendo
and
y
is
demás.
now amplified in danger and reward.
Ahí se la juega.
Abyssal pits also interact with other monsters and
Venga, venga, ese corre para atrás mucho.
exile that's near one. It'll be revived
Ese
as a
para
life
adelante.
form that has multiple abyssal modifiers.
Buah, tío. Tiene buena pinta, ¿eh?
Even have their own unique
Jueguito.
jewel they can drop, if you are lucky enough to encounter and kill them. If an abyss spawns near a boss, killing it will summon a gigantic giga larvae creature.
Savannah.
Monsters imprisoned in essences near abyssal pits are affected by the abyss too. They will come with an additional new essence item that can be used to craft your items.
Of the Crypt.
So, that's your
¿Habéis visto el agujero ese del avisal? Ahí es donde sube normalmente el tesoro, avisal, ¿no?
close the fissures, overcome pit encounters, and reap the rewards.
Ay, ay.
There's a lot more to this league, however. As you complete abysses, you can find ancient pieces of bone, preserved from the
Míralo,
remains
míralo.
of fallen lich.
Míralo, el cofre avisal.
These are one of the many rewards for your mission to seal the pits.
Descifrate.
You can use this on a rare item to imbue it with abyssal magic, adding a special hidden modifier to your item.
No. Los Veiled.
With the campaign, you'll encounter a new.
Los Veiled.
This area is overrun by the abyssal and the.
Oh.
After clearing through this area, you'll find the Well of Souls, a giant cavity with a massive vortex of souls swirling beneath you. So how do you reveal the mods on your abyssal infused items? Obviously, just throw them in, right?
Sí,
That's exactly what you do.
Es eso.
Before throwing it in, you are given the option of how you want to transform it, in the
Y
form
puedes elegir.
of 3 different modifiers.
Lo han puesto.
Once you've
Lo han
chosen
puesto.
your desired mod, throw it in.
Veiled.
where it will absorb the power of the souls, and the ominous creature will then retrieve it for you. These modifiers can be ones from the core mod pool, all the way through to specialized modifiers that cannot normally appear on items. During the campaign, you can use it as a way to more easily add useful existing mods, but during the endgame, there is a whole set of
El
new
nuevo método de crafteo.
mods you can add to your items. Like this mod for crossbows that allows you to place an additional ballista totem. Or this one that adds spirit to your staff. Or this one that allows you to generate more combo with your quarterstaff skills. And speaking of endgame,
No, no es que se complique, yo creo que es
you can also use the
que abre más abanico
vertebrae fused into your waist.
de tipos.
You can get some new modifiers that push difficulty and rewards to new heights. Here are some examples of those mods. You always get a choice of 3, so you can avoid anything you don't think your character is capable of.
No han puesto cosa.
With this modifier, the natural inhabitants of the area,
Sí, sí, es los mercenarios.
and there are up to
No, los mercenarios no, es
making it just a full
como... Uy, ¿cómo se llamaba el Bailet?
which causes the final abyssal pit in the area to
Ah, bueno, sí, coño.
in a boss encounter.
Eh,
Be it either one
A
underground.
ver, el mercenario que te sigue, pero sí, los otros mercenarios, lo de...
There are dozens of these waystone modifiers in total you can get from this crafting. That covers the new crafting mechanic. So what's left? Well, we talked about how when closing pits you can get abyssal troves, but sometimes when closing an abyss, you'll reveal an underground cavern that leads to the abyssal depths. After
Ahí está.
jumping into the depths, you'll find an abyssal city, swarming with legions of the undead. When underground, every single rare abyssal enemy will have an abyssal modifier. And at the end of the dungeon, you'll even find a rare with a more powerful Lichborn modifier. Once you're able to defeat this powerful rare, you can also find some nice rewards. Aside from the entire area being valuable due to the abyssal modifiers on the monsters, it has its own specific drops too. One example is a set of lineage supports that can rarely be found in these depths, like Kurgel's Leash. This support empowers both you and your minions when you command them,
Holy Might.
granting
Eso te
unholy
da
might to you both.
mucho daño.
Another depth-specific outcome is a set of omen-like items that amplify your abyssal crafting. Additionally, we're adding some new socketables that can drop from the abyssal depths. Take Ulaman's Gaze, which can be socketed into your armor. These are a bit special in that you can only have one equipped at a time, but give some pretty powerful effects. Think of them as
De solo ser la azul
for your equipment. In the endgame, where you can still find depths, you also start to find a different type of underground chamber.
Sí, sí.
In
El
these
mercenario en
you
inglés.
find an ancient spire, a device being used by commanders of the abyssal faith
Mercenario para los
to plunge Rayclast into a lightless void. Your goal is simple. Kill this commander and destroy the spire. There are 4 bosses in the Abyss League, and there are some pretty cool
Oh,
uniques
los
available.
cinturones avisales.
An example is this build,
Oh.
Darkness Enthroned. It has 2 sockets. But hold on, socketables don't work on belts. Well, this belt has a special mod that allows it to count as a different slot for the purpose of socketables. This one, for example, counts as a helmet. I kind of want one that counts as a body armor. I wonder how rare that one is. You can also find this unique jewel, Undying Hate. This
Sí, el jefe, el nuevo jefe, hay dos nuevos
Abyssal
jefes.
version.
¿Será?
and
El
has
jefe
multiple
de-
depths. The deeper it goes, the more of your passive tree is
Lo
affected,
cambian con los
allowing
tributos.
you to fulfill
No,
your fantasy of becoming
no,
part
tío,
of
que yo
Abyssal.
vengo corriendo de eso.
Now, the last thing that Abyssal commanders can drop is a finger of the Lich.
La
What
joya.
use do you have with a random undead finger? Well, the next time you return to the Well of Souls, with the finger in your inventory,
Urk,
character will almost feel...
tú sabes, ¿no?
To do what, though, you might ask?
Solo falta que metan las timeless.
Threw in came back more powerful, right?
Como metas las tiles,
That could happen.
me mata.
Well, you will just have to find that one out for yourself. Along with the introduction of Act 4 and the interlude, we will be adding 25 new in-game maps. These maps will contain all the new monsters and bosses we're adding, improving variety and giving you opportunities to experience the new boss fights many times. Let's take a look at some examples. Rock Pools is a map where you explore a shallow rocky coastline, surrounded by coral and filled with sirens. At the end is a giant Goblin King boss, ready to eat sulfite and squish you like a bug. Holton is an Ezomite township which has seen better days. Explore and clear the township to find a gothic, Reaper-like boss with the ability to
Reaper.
manipulate storms and fry you with both lightning and wither you with chaos.
Qué chulo.
Given some of the new bosses added are a bit more epic, such as the Act boss and final bosses of each interlude part, it would be a bit of a waste to just use them as regular map bosses. Instead, we'll be adding some new mechanics to the Atlas that use them. These start appearing pretty fast into the endgame and will help bridge the gap until you do your pinnacle bosses. In the desert biome, you can encounter a wild sandstorm. 3 maps around the sandstorm contain a device you must activate. Upon doing this, the sandstorm's magic is disrupted, revealing the map inside and allowing you to access it and find the cause. This presents itself in the form of a boss, similar to the existing Citadel bosses. This boss is a Faradin Swordmaster, who has been blessed with the power of a time gem, allowing him to take his swordsmanship to the next level by replicating himself, maneuvering rapidly, and severing the fabric of time itself with his powerful slashes. In the water biome, you'll encounter a giant maelstrom, where one of the maps surrounding the water biome connects to it, but the connection is obscured. You must run the maps nearby, hoping to find a beacon, which will remove the maelstrom and reveal the connection to that map. Another example is this Vaal vault in the mountain biome. But how do we get inside? Running the adjacent maps to it will yield a key, which you can then use to gain access to this vault. Or, you could just trade for one, I guess. Use the key to dispel the powerful force field surrounding it, leading to the Vaal Elite and their rewards inside. These all contain Uber versions of the Act 4 boss, and the bosses at the end of each part of the interlude. And each have their own exclusive drop pool of new lineage supports, which, as Jonathan spoke about earlier, are powerful support gems that modify your skills in pretty crazy ways. As an example of a lineage support which can come from the Faradin Swordmaster mentioned earlier, we have Guru Khan's Resolve, which causes your critical strikes to fork, but requires some mobility on your part to properly enable. From the boss sealed in the Vaal Vault, we have Paquate's Pact, which supports your war cries, causing them to inflict massive amounts of corrupted blood at the cost of your own life. Additionally, some maps can now spawn summoning circles, a room resembling an Ezomite henge. Activating this henge will spawn bosses. It's as simple as that. We'll also be making changes to how affixes and waystones work.
Una que si la activas vendrá un
Equals
objeto.
good, suffixes equals bad, iteration isn't quite hitting the mark. We tried something new here in Path of Exile 2, but after seeing the feedback we decided we actually liked what we had in Path of Exile 1 more. Like Path of Exile 1, each affix will now be both difficult and rewarding. Waystone mods now grant an increase to the number of waystones dropped, and an additional specific upside attached to it. This means as you roll your map, they will continue to get more difficult and more rewarding, and allow you to customize the difficulty and rewards of your maps better. For example, the Frostbitten mod, which causes enemies to deal cold damage, also increases the rarity of items dropped as its upside. Whereas the Of Venom suffix modifier, which causes enemies to poison on hit, has the upside of granting increased pack size. Some maps will end up having a lot of rarity, some a lot of pack size, and others will just have a mixture of everything. Due to now having more modifiers granting difficulty, We will, of course, be reducing the difficulty per modifier to account for this. So, that's your Atlas, maps, and waystones. But what about Breach, Ritual, Pinnacle content, and others of the sort? We're making some changes around this too. The first change is that you'll now be able to invest 2 points into your specific League Atlas trees before having to run the Pinnacle content.
Estaban pidiendo de que
There will be
quitaran
a
lo de las
specific
tropas.
objective for each type of content which grants you those points. For example, in the case of Delirium, it's simple. You just need to find and kill one of the bosses in a map, Omniophobia or Kosis. The rest of the points for each content come from the Pinnacle content, but we're making some changes to accessibility here too. Currently, access to most Pinnacle content requires the same key at the easiest and most difficult version of the content. This creates a negative feeling where at lower difficulties, instead of wanting to run the content, you're often better off just selling it to someone who can run it at maximum difficulty. To address this, each content will now drop splinters, which will not form into singular items. Instead of using the singular combined item in the Realm Gate, you can now just bring your splinters. Upon inserting the splinters into the Realm Gate, an interface will appear, allowing you to pick your difficulty, and you'll notice each difficulty has a different entry cost. This means if you want to run easier difficulties, it costs less, which also allows you to run this content much sooner into the endgame. Because these encounters now just require splinters, their corresponding Atlas tree no longer affects the difficulty of them, and has been changed to purely affect the content and maps on the Atlas. The Arbiter of Ash works a bit differently. Instead of requiring splinters, he
Venga, tío. Que vaya bien. Muchas gracias por estar por aquí.
of the Arbiter. The first, requiring the existing fragments obtained from citadels. The second, Uber Arbiter, requires Calamity fragments. These come from citadel bosses also, but only once you've allocated the maximum number of points in your boss Atlas tree, ensuring those citadels are at their highest difficulty level. Since we're talking about Pinnacle content, we also felt that the leveling curve in the late game was a bit too steep. We've smoothed this out a bit so that it's easier to get to the mid-90s. We've also added some new in-game unique items.
Matando fuego con
Let's take
fuego.
a look at a couple.
Ese vale.
Thunderfist is a pair of gloves that grants Crackling Palm, a skill which empowers your unarmed attacks, granting the ability to call down the storms themselves on enemies you hit. Put simply, literally every monster you hit with your unarmed skills will be struck by powerful lightning.
Como a ese, ¿no?
Pair this with the aforementioned
Se va cargado.
hologram technique to embrace
Un kinetic, ¿no?
prowess in
Se
combat.
parece a un kinetic.
Another unique we're adding is Henekura's Sight. Equip this amulet to be granted the power of the Mother of Death herself. This is reflected by granting you a skill called Foresight. While you have Foresight, your dodge roll no longer avoids hits. But instead, being hit while dodge rolling restores you to full life and makes you unable to die for a brief period of time. You'll notice when this does occur, a copy of your character appears and takes the full damage. This is you seeing that future, as if you hadn't been wearing the amulet. Ultimately, your in-game experience should be more streamlined. With new content to find, you'll be able to invest in your Atlas trees sooner, engage with Pinnacle content faster, have less FOMO running said Pinnacle content, reach higher levels easier, and do all of that while finding many new chase endgame items. Talking about finding items is one thing, but what about crafting?
Crafting.
We've taken a step back and looked at some of our crafting systems to make some notable improvements. Let's start with essences.
Y el.
With a regular
Y el mazo.
effectively
El
used
de maza de fuego, tío.
players the
Se,
tools
está chulo, ¿eh?
that a crafting system should provide. To alleviate these concerns, essences are being changed in a few ways. Firstly, they're being changed to function like regals and add specific modifiers with specific values, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get. We found that players were often bottlenecked by regal orbs when crafting in the campaign, so this helps to fill that gap, allowing you to better upgrade your items. For example, this Lesser Essence of Flames, which will be able to add a flat amount of fire damage to your magic martial weapons. Secondly, we're adding many more tiers. That Lesser Essence of Flames, for example, has a regular variant and a greater variant too. adding even more fire damage with each upgrade. The intention of this is so that when you find one early on,
Bien.
you don't worry about holding onto it till later to use on a higher level item.
Así las esencias valdrán para algo.
Feel free to use them as they come to get
Es que antes eran de normal a raro. Ahora sí se ponen de azul a
Our
amarillo.
tier of essences, now called
mejor.
perfect essences, will function like a chaos orb instead of a regal. So it will replace one of the modifiers on your rare items with the specified mod. Such as this perfect essence of flames. You'll notice this one doesn't just add flat fire damage like the
Ah,
one
le
before.
pone
The
un
perfect
modificador nuevo garantizado y aparte lo otro.
to be pretty damn powerful.
Le pone dos.
There are many different essences, each with many tiers, covering many of the more core modifiers you'd want on items early on, through to chase specialized ones for endgame. Speaking of endgame, we really wanted to expand our crafting options for late endgame crafting projects. You might have noticed that at endgame, you get way too many transmutes. Wouldn't it be nice if some of those didn't drop,
En-
but instead you got something a little
¿Y esa jabalina de hielo? ¿Y los rayos?
At higher levels, you can now find Greater Orb of Transmutation and Perfect Orb of Transmutation. These can be used on normal items to upgrade them to magic, ensuring that the modifier generated is of a minimum level. This is similar to how you find higher tier items on the ground, but for crafting. These higher tiers will also exist for Orb of Augmentation,
Peter
Regal orb.
Amperfe.
Exalted Orb, and Chaos Orb, meaning you can get all of the orbs required to take your item from normal rarity
Que tiene
to a fully
más-
completed rare with guaranteed high tier mods. On top of these new core
Que te
crafting modes,
garantiza de que sea
we
mejor
want
el
to make
mod.
sure there are powerful crafting bases to use them on. Now in
Sí, el de la temporada pasada, sí, sí. sí.
exceptional items. These are items that drop at normal rarity and are perfect for your from scratch crafting projects. They can come with extra quality, up to 30%, or an additional socket to use your
30%
crafting
de
sockables
calidad.
in. And yes, they can be corrupted for yet another socket. You can also get exceptional unique items. To add even further to your crafting arsenal, we've added a whole suite of new omens to ritual content, and removed some of the more unimpactful ones that weren't being used. Some of the new omens include the Omen of the Ancients, which will cause your next Orb of Chance to not destroy the item, but generate a random unique of the same class. Or the Omen of Sanctification, which is my new favorite. This will cause your next Divine Orb used on a rare item
Tu favorito
the
nuevo.
values of its modifier,
Lo
allowing
santifica.
it to exceed the normal minimum and maximum values.
Del
Raising
80
the
al
ceiling on the new most powerful rare
120%
items in the
de
game.
rango.
This omen will also
Ese es
cause
el
your
nuevo
items to become
Divine o
sanctified.
por encima del Divine.
Sanctified items cannot be crafted, just like corrupted ones, so
Santificado.
consider carefully when you use this. Another is the Omen of Chaotic Monsters, which will cause your next Chaos Orb to reroll all modifiers on a Waystone, allowing you to fix your maps if you get some modifiers that are not feasible for your build. Besides these examples, there is a huge variety of new omens for you to discover in your ritual encounters. With the release of Act 4, notably taking place in the Karuri archipelago, you'll be able to now find a new currency item, Henikora's Lock. Henikora, the Karuri goddess of death, has the power of foresight and is able to see many futures, including the outcome of your next craft. So, imbuing her lock onto an item gives you that same power too.
Ah, como que le pone.
You'll know whether or not to use an Exalted Orb on your item, as you will know exactly what the outcome is.
Le
So, with all these
pone.
new crafting
Ay, ¿cómo se llamaba?
Safe to say you're going to be making some epic items, and not necessarily
Que
just ones for yourself.
estaban como
That it's time to talk about a massive one.
marcados por el boss, ¿no?
It's finally here. The moment we've all been.
El nuevo sistema de tradeo, por fin.
Over the years, the way players trade with each other in Path of Exile 1 has morphed from using the forums through to the in-game chat, all the way through to using the website. These systems, in all their iterations, work for a while, but with each iteration, new problems eventually reveal themselves. Be it requiring you to be in your hideout too much instead of out there killing monsters, or never getting responses from people who are either AFK or just can't be bothered.
Y ahora los bots que ponían a un caos o lo ponían barato y que no contestaban, ahora si lo tiene en su mercante, se vende directamente. Eso quita un montón el tema de... y te aparece. Qué
The
bien.
introduction of King's March in Act 4, you will encounter Ange,
Bien.
assistant to Rog in the Meridian Free Traders Company. Over the last 2 decades or so, since
Venga, tío. Que
story,
vaya bien.
Faustus has
Descansa.
handed down his knowledge and expertise to Ange, and she is now ready to take over his business. If you have a hideout unlocked already, you can immediately invite her there. If you don't have a hideout yet, you will need to acquire one. You can do this by completing a quest to defeat one of the bosses inhabiting an island in Act 4. Allow you then to take a slice of it for yourself, making it your new home and base of operations.
Vale, no
Once invited to your
hideout.
hideout, she will now serve as operating your currency exchange, but also serve as the figurehead in your new trading empire.
Manage shop.
How does this new system work? In the existing trade system, you would list items for sale in premium stash tabs. And then when someone wanted one, you'd have to take it out for yourself and trade it to them. Now, instead of using those, you can give your items to Ange so she can sell them for you. Each item must have a price set. The prices are set using in-game currency items, such as Exalted Orbs or Chaos Orbs. Once a price is set, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it on the trade website. Once a desired item has been found, you can hit a button, which will instantly teleport your character in-game to their hideout. Then, you can immediately purchase the item. And while there,
Hostia, eres como un mercante, un NPC.
in case there's
Vas a tu
deal someone else
tiendecita
hasn't
y
yet
lo vas comprando las cosas.
You'll notice
Qué
that
guay.
on top of the currency the seller set for the price, it
Y
also
te
costs
cuesta oro
to purchase
por
an item,
hacer los
as Ange
tradeos.
has bills to pay after
Bien,
all.
muy bien.
As a seller, you'll
Y así
immediately
no
receive
tienes la rapidez de tener que mirarlo con
and can also see an effect
rápido
above
para darle a
and in your
aceptar,
hideout,
sino
which is unclaimed
directamente
currency.
se para, lo mira, mira las
talk to her.
stats.
Claim your currency and continue playing at your leisure.
Bien, bien,
As
bien.
many people already acquired premium stash tabs for the purpose of the trade system, we wanted to add a way for you to convert your existing tabs to merchants tabs, if you want. You can do that here, on the website, but only if you purchase those tabs before the
Vale,
release of the
50.
third edict. To clarify, the existing trade system will remain fully intact, so your premium stash tabs will not lose any of their functionality. We just figured people might want to switch over to this new system. We expect a lot of feedback around this new
Las
system,
premium
and are
las
looking forward to trying it out with
conviertes
you. As we are not able to
forma
test
de
internally
mercado.
with an entire, thriving economy, there will certainly be some kinks to work out. Based on how the system goes, we will be adding it to Path of Exile 1 when ready, so any of the tabs you purchase will also be usable there later. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Justice and Path and
pagos,
Executioner
¿no?
packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The Justice series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Claim glory after defeating enemies, or inspire your allies by calling down the Banner of Justice portal. The Sphinx Mystic hideout decoration will identify items for you, displaying them as it does so. This ancient creature has been presented with many items over the eons, so has some strong expressions to make on the quality of your wares. Become a true warrior, worthy of delivering the justice of the eternal gods with the Apostle of Justice armor set. This armor set also comes with a matching back attachment containing a set of scales to measure your worth. With the Apostle of Justice finisher effect equipped, the goddess of justice herself will appear to decide on a verdict for slain unique enemies. Witness as she decides the fate of your slain foes. Will they ascend to be amongst the gods or be banished to the underworld? The Griffin fledgling pet will be your courageous companion as you journey throughout Rayclast. Take your place in the skies in the Plateau of the Gods hideout. This hideout comes with many different sections for setting up your home or base of operations. In order to travel between them, you simply just need to walk off the edge. Like a true eternal god, you can float between the mountains on the clouds themselves. The Trathan Executioner pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. The Trathan Executioner finisher effect is a brutal display of Trathan might, crushing slain unique enemies as if they were bugs beneath your heel.
Qué chulo.
As a Trathan Executioner, you're the perfect master for the ever-hungry carrion raptor pet. It has taken a particular liking to the taste of other pets, and at your command it will swoop down and eviscerate them, proceeding to satisfy its hunger by feeding on their corpse. The nobles of the 4 major Trathan houses had their mercenaries, but if their hired hands became notably irritating, they'd have to call in the Trathan Executioners. You can now embrace their methods and become brutality incarnate with the Cruel Trathan Executioner armor set. The matching Cruel Trathan Executioner cloak will shroud you in scarlet as you crush the skulls of your enemies and leave a trail of blood behind you as you build up a kill streak. Or use the alternate variant to simply put a skeleton on your back. Be bathed in blood as you mutilate monsters with the Cruel Trathan Executioner character effect. The swirling blood increases in volume as your spree of slaughter continues. Both this effect and the cloak use the same kill streak for tracking how much blood is shown. After a long and tiring day of executions, enjoy a relaxing game of dice with the Goblin Gambler's Hideout decoration. They'll definitely be playing fair, right? The Pulverizer map device brings a horrid efficiency to punishing the damned of Trathis. Each map you open will execute the next victims. This map device in its true ruthlessness tracks the total number of monsters killed, your kills per second, and your largest kill streak up to the point of the map being completed. This is then displayed on a leaderboard so you can take a measure of you and your friends' violence at the end of each map. Additionally, any
Tiene buena pinta
supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 1. That's enough about cosmetics. Let's get into the Q&A. But firstly, I want to give a huge thank you for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, at 11 AM NZ time, or 4 PM Pacific, we'll post Path of Exile 2, the Third Edict's patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to seeing your experiences with Act 4 and its new bosses, fighting the Abyssal, trying new builds, and crafting new items. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Pues ya está, señores. ¿Qué? Dame que ha aparecido.
Hello, and welcome back, Exiles.
Sí.
A absolutely monumental reveal. We now have a suitably juicy Q&A session for you. Probably like 2 hours or something, so grab a cuppa, grab a snack, and settle in. I'm joined once again by Jonathan and Mark to discuss a lot. The patch that had to fix all the things, right?
That was the goal. I mean, we didn't quite get to literally everything, but we certainly managed to do a lot of things that we were very keen to do.
Yeah, you guys were telling me that this was uniquely nerve-wracking for you because there was, I guess it felt like there was a lot of pressure on this one to fix everything.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we've obviously got a lot to prove. We need to make sure that we're like that. Well, put it this way: I wouldn't want people to feel like we that we don't have answers to a lot of the things that people have been unhappy about. So we really tried to do as much as we could in one go to kind of do everything. As I said, didn't get to literally everything, but we got to quite a lot of it, and I'm thinking that people will be a lot happier with this release than they were with the last one.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see how much was in this one, especially given that you've moved to this kind of like 4 and 2 cycle of. You just the Path of Exile 1 expansion, which also had a lot of pressure on it to be a big one as well.
Yep. So I mean, it's certainly.
Hacer contenido súper casual a esta escala, ¿por qué no sacar en vez de un reward 5 rewards y 20.000 cosas? Si es lo mismo.
Y Taco es el ejemplo de gente que no escucha.
Es excusa.
Dicho eso.
Es que eso no es excusa.
Con la fuerza de trabajo que tiene esta gente, el parche es enorme.
A ver. A ver qué nos dice. Esto es lo que decían de que lo iban a poner gratis para que lo probaran. Los que no tengan el juego. Ardemos. En la oscuridad. Esperamos. Voy uno. Voy dos.
The balance changes instead. So that's what we ended up doing, and obviously it was like a really hard thing to cut because obviously like, you're going to have another one without a class. Like it feels really terrible.
Yeah,
but we've got the philosophy now of like we have to make sure that we're in the release month that we say we're going to be in. So therefore something had to go, and unfortunately that was it. But it means we've obviously got a huge head start for when we actually do it next time. And I mean, look, there was so much stuff that was cut. Like even as large as it is, like there's like ascendancies and all sorts of stuff that was gonna be there, and we'll get to it. But more important to just make sure that people are happy with the stuff that's in, and make sure all those changes are great, and make sure obviously you've got answers for stuff, right?
I imagine for Druid, it's a big part of it's just the fact that the shapeshifting, getting it looking and feeling. Right,
I mean, it's a huge deal. It's hard. Like there's so much animation stuff that has to go into making each form feel right. So but we'll get there. Like I don't think we're that far away from it now. So it's just a question of prioritization.
Yeah, it seems like is probably the hardest class of all. Then
might be. Yeah.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
You're getting a bit more ambitious as you go with each class.
That is true.
Too, which
is true. Every class is a step up from the last in terms of that. Yeah.
Yes. So I guess on that note, do you have a vision for who's next after Druid, or is it kind of a race between them to see who ends up feeling the most
Well, I've
finished?
always said that it would be criminal to go into full release without having swords. So
Yeah,
you know that's
Yes.
that's
It's
kind
a
of a
little
pretty
bit
clear.
To save our way. Over the ages, we have known pain like no other, but we endured, and we became mighty. Now, outsiders dishonor our shores, and we have stood by, doing nothing. Hear my voice, ancestors! Show us your strength! Show us the true way! I understand. Be still. Eye of Unicorn!
Tiene una pinta el juego. Las nuevas zonas. Es que en el vídeo no se aprecia, pero yo lo estoy viendo aquí.
The true Lakura Makoi will rise. 4. Rediseño de la gema de habilidad. Rediseño de habilidades. 40 asistencia de linaje. Comercio. Oh. Increíble, ¿eh? Ah, y el comienzo de las visales. Oh. Y del nuevo crasteo. Rise of the Abyssal. El edicto se ha portado. Buenas cosas vienen. Bueno. Aquí está. Vale. Continúa con lo del acto 4, ¿vale? La exploración de las islas. Nagamagakun. ¿Cómo es? Nagamakanui. Gamakanui. Y ahí te quedas. Los nuevos jefes. Muy chulos los jefes nuevos. Este ha sido impresionante cuando se come al tío. El tiburón. El tiburón se la come, se la come. 3 nuevos mini-actos. Los interludios que llamaban son mini-actos. Ya no tendrás que superar la historia 2 veces para llegar al final del juego. Incorporaremos 3 interludios temporales en un set de historias secundarias, incluyendo 19 áreas y 12 jefes, que te llevarán al nivel 65 justo donde comienza el final. O por si te creas personajes nuevos. Vale, ahora lo entiendo. Haces estas 3 partes y te lleva a level 65. Vale. Muy bien. Muy bien, señores. La liga de Abyssal. Los abismos. El pozo de almas, que es con el tema que hemos hablado de... Como el unveil, el desencristar del poema. Cristal. Nuevo jefe, nuevo final. Vale, tenemos las avisales. Tenemos cinturón con avisales. Tenemos lo de el tema de los augurios. Después está, cuando están activos en el inventario, pues un orbe de caos, un orbe de
Divine, lo aumenta. Esto que te da, dependiendo de la armadura o lo que sea, te da una mejora, dependiendo de dónde lo inserte. Son como gemas nuevas, por decirlo así. En fin, más rápidamente cuando no estés en combate o para escapar de lo que pasó en situaciones. Esta función está disponible para todas las clases y no hay límite de cantidad de tiempo para que puedas sprintar. Cuando presiones el botón de esquivar rodando, tu personaje sprintará después de terminar de rodar. Ah, vale. Hay que hacer una rueda y sale corriendo. Vale. Los sistemas de gemas, que es lo que hemos visto, de que pueden tener quemadura 1, quemadura 3, pueden tener diferentes quemaduras. Vale. Me gusta porque es que antes lo tenías un poquito capado, porque si lo tenía una gema, se lo ponía una gema a un support, ya la otra se quedaba sin ese support. Así que, bien. Equilibrio. Que decía que ahora todas las clases se han realizado importantes mejoras para cada clase de personaje, como la incorporación de nuevas habilidades, 150 grupos nuevos de árboles de pasiva, enormes mejoras de habilidades existentes y mucho más. Así podremos jugar con cualquier tipo de personaje. Sí que no me ha gustado, que no he visto, porque yo soy muy fan del daño de caos. No he visto mucho daño de caos en esta. Y al ser abismo, que es necrótico, por decirlo así, son necromantes y demás, que no hayan sacado más daño de veneno o de caos, pero en este caso no he visto mucho por la parte que me gusta a mí. Actualizaciones para la fabricación, ¿vale? Sí, los objetos que ahora cambian, ahora son superiores, perfectos y demás, que lo que hace es que garantizan mejor resultado. Así que eso, bien. Lo que no sé es cómo habrá otro sistema de cobro entre orbe de caos perfecto con orbe de caos superior. Costará, no sé, 2 orbes de caos superiores, uno perfecto o cosas así, ¿no? Entiendo yo, pero pues nada. Que ahora antes te regía por todo tantos orbes de caos, pero ahora que van a ser tantos orbes de caos perfectos, tantos de orbes de caos superiores, es lo complicado. Ahora el sistema monetario cambiará. Nuevo objeto, ¿vale? Nuevos mapas del final del mundo, que han dicho lo del tema de los vales, que va a cambiar. Nuevos encuentros del final del juego, que son estos. Ahora, aparte de lo que eran los corruptos, hay otros sistemas también que creo que eran para jefes, ¿no? Los jefes finales. Gemas de asistencia de linaje. Durante el final del juego encontrar un tipo de nuevo y especial de gema de asistencia extremadamente poderosa, la asistencia de linaje. Piensa que ellas como objetos únicos, pero, pero para la asistencia. Al igual que ocurre con los únicos, algunas pueden caer como parte del botín regular y otras de jefe específico. Algunas son determinantes para las builds, mientras que otras son simplemente aumentos de poder. Sí, que lo que hará es que te mejorarán, te hará como un impulso del daño. Los hechizos se repiten 2 veces más. Bien. Imagínate una caída de meteoritos, pues repites 3 veces los meteoritos. Está muy bien. Vale, el sistema de comercio, que ya es asíncrono, ya no necesitas de una página web donde buscarlo, comprarlo. Bueno, sale todavía en la página web, pero que ahora es más fácil de encontrar los objetos, de mirarlo poco a poco, de revisarlo y que no sea de dame, te doy, acepta que me tengo que ir. Ahora hay más. Ah, pues mira, tiene esto, tiene lo otro. Esto no lo he visto. Yo creo que está bien. Pues nada, el 29 de agosto. Señores, el 29 de agosto, aquí, en este canal, que tenemos que jugarlo, probarlo y mirar a ver qué build nos hacemos. 9 días. 9 días en que cae, creo que caldrá en viernes o sábado, ¿no? 29, viernes. Viernes. Chicos, pues nada, yo creo que con esto hemos repasado todo. Hemos visto el vídeo, ha sido muy entretenido. Me ha gustado las conversaciones que hemos estado ahí. Ha sido una conversación dinámica. He estado hablando, tratando todos los temas. Así que nada, señores. Yo creo que mañana abriré un poquito para entrar al PoE, que quiero terminar de hacer mi personaje. Y si empiezan a hacer builds y demás, miramos a ver alguna guía, a ver cómo lo van a plantear y demás. ¿Vale? Muchas gracias por haber estado por ahí. Nos vemos.